Good morning, Wake and Takers. How are we doing today? It is Thursday, August 21st. Welcome back for another episode of Wake and Take. We got a good episode for you today. We got a little bit of news to go over, nothing too major, thankfully. Finally, we get a Thursday where we get to focus on our main topic, and I also got a special guest today. But first, let's go through the pleasantries. Good morning. Good morning. How are we doing? I see we got Jamie in the chat. Woke up early for this one. Appreciate you, Jamie, for being there. Alex, as always, thank you guys for being in the chat, waking and taking with us today. As always, be sure to follow Player Profiler Now page over on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to get all the notifications for whenever we go live with all of our different shows. Be sure to follow us over on Twitter as well at profiler_now, as well as me at jowens_ff. Gonna jump right into it. I have, like I said, a special guest today. I have Jonny Tooma, the Fantasy Picasso. He is the host of the Dynasty Deep Dive over on the Player Profiler channel. He is the senior media manager over at Player Profiler. Let's go ahead and just bring him on in. And Jonny, how we doing? How we doing? Good morning.
Good. Hey, thanks for having me, Justin.
No, absolutely. Thank you for joining us on Wake and Take. I know early morning streams aren't for everyone, so I appreciate you taking the time here.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you got anything exciting in your world going on right now in terms of the Dynasty Deep Dive?
Yeah, recording another Dynasty Deep Dive tonight. You can find that over on the Player Profiler main page, and just going deep into like the deepest parts of the Dynasty depths that some people won't even touch. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of Mitchell Tinsley from the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be talking some Efton Chisholm, some of the guys that if you're a true sicko, you really like.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, Tinsley the other day with the 2 touchdowns, just beasting up on everybody. So
like 20 seconds. It was like it had been like 20 seconds off the clock, and just 2 of the better catches I've seen in the past year. And I'm like, man, this guy's like never even heard of him, and now I definitely have. And so it's fun seeing guys like that in the preseason.
Oh yeah, definitely the guys that you stash and you just wait for that pop, and when it happens, it's just like pure dopamine.
Yeah, I mean he's a real deep cut, right? But like there's some leagues I play in where like anybody with a pulse on waivers is worth having an eye on, and so like a guy, to be honest, I had never even looked at or reviewed from like a film or prospect perspective, and just kind of being thrown on your radar. It was it kind of made me smile. Like I said, it's just the fun part of preseason, you know.
Oh yeah, it's why we do it. It's why we do it. It's why we look into all this. But we're gonna switch it up a little bit today on you. We're gonna keep you a little bit more redraft focused, but a little bit of the news has some dynasty implications. So I'm sure everyone's gonna be excited to hear about that. Jumping right into the news, we did get finally confirmation that we got it at the end of the show on Tuesday, but Daniel Jones officially the starter in Indianapolis for week 1. And it's already been talked about. He's not going to have a short leash, whatever that means. I mean, can we really trust coach speak? But it definitely kind of brings a different touch to this Indianapolis offense compared to what we kind of have for the past 2 weeks, where maybe it is Richardson. Is this shifting anything in terms of your take on Indianapolis? Are you moving Downs, Warren, Pittman anywhere? Or is it kind of just we expected it?
No, I think this is in general, it's good news for Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs. I've seen some people saying like it could mean lighter boxes for Jonathan Taylor. I think it's about a wash because while that may be true, you also have, when the defense has to account for a mobile quarterback, like a little more mobile. Anthony Richardson is a little more mobile than Daniel Jones, I would say, right? So when they have to account for a mobile quarterback, it kind of allows the runner to have some more rushing lanes. So I think those two kind of factors kind of wash out for Jonathan Taylor. I think it's good for Pittman and Downs because Daniel Jones just likes to kind of be a target hog or funnel underneath and look downfield or instead of looking downfield, which means probably the biggest loser is Alec Pierce. say what you want about Anthony Richardson, but I've actually had some people on my show who kind of dive into how often he is willing to throw the ball deep, and it's at the higher rate than anyone in the league. And so, we've seen Daniel Jones just struggle with getting enough air under the ball in some of those Giants low lights where they're running downfield, they're wide open, the wide receiver, maybe it's Darius Slayton or Neighbors, and he just doesn't put enough air on it. So I don't think that's great for Alec Pierce. But that being said, again, even a guy like Darius Slayton was able to find a couple spike weeks, right, with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. So all in all, I think it's probably better news than having Anthony Richardson throwing the ball. I mean, he was below 50% completion percentage, which is just not going to get it done. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we saw, like you said, we saw Daniel Jones just completely pepper Wan'Dale Robinson with those underneath targets. So if Josh Downs can tap into that, that's kind of been where my money's been in this Indy offense.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, I see a comment saying Jones can pick up a first down with his legs as well. 100%. That's why I was like, Richardson maybe a little more mobile, like almost to that level of like a Jaden Daniels-esque type thing is what the defense might have to account for, which is not quite, I don't think Jones is quite as intimidating on the ground, but Jones is kind of interesting in fantasy for that reason, right? Long leash, we're now being told, has some legs. Shane Steichen's shown the ability to have a successful quarterback, mobile quarterback like design. And so I'm kind of curious if Jones could be this year's Sam Darnold.
I could definitely see it. And I think, I mean, it's not like Indianapolis is devoid of weapons. I mean, they got Taylor, Downs, Pittman, where they brought in Tyler Warren. So it's definitely an interesting team to watch. I'm excited. An offense that kind of resurged last season again is dealing with a lot of injuries over in Tampa Bay. We got some more news on Tuesday, Wednesday, and we got some more news this morning as well. But first, Jalen McMillan, he suffered a severe neck strain, so he's he's placed on the IR, could be out until past Tampa's Week 9 bye. And then we got another little update from Chris Godwin this morning where they're taking him off the PUP, but they're still expecting to hold him out until October. So right now it just kind of seems like, I mean, the Emeka Egbuka steam has just been out of control lately. And I feel like right now it's just, this is even more fuel to that fire. With the Godwin news of him coming off the PUP, does that kind of temper the expectations a little bit once Godwin comes back? Or is it just Egbuka full steam ahead? Tampa Bay offense is going to be running through him and Evans.
I don't really know what's going to happen when Godwin comes back in terms of to your point, I think Egbuka has a chance to really have a fast start here with McMillan and Godwin sidelined. And, will he ever relinquish those targets to Godwin when he comes back? That's to be determined. But I think to your point, the train has already left the station with Emeka Egbuka, and now it's just going to start getting crazy, probably where people are taking him in the 40s and 50s around the range of guys like Jameson Williams, let's say, which I honestly I'm so in on Egbuka that I'm sounds about right. That's kind of the type of upside you can see in an explosive offense like that. I think the McMillan news was really heartbreaking for me because I was targeting him pretty frequently in best ball just as a guy who I thought could have some spike weeks while Godwin was out. But to your point, I think it just means that production that I was kind of expecting from Jalen McMillan might be funneled a little more towards Egbuka, Bucky, and Mike Evans. But, I have a guy on who I brought on my show, Zara, who has a great X page. It's at ZCantsFF, and you guys should go follow him for sure. And he was talking about how Tez Johnson could be a sneaky guy to actually start the season in the slot for them. Extremely high yards per route run in college coming out of the slot. Has some draft capital, right? He wasn't undrafted like many thought he would go after a small size. And apparently he's had a better camp than, I think people are like he's not getting a lot of steam, right? But he could be a sneaky like guy challenging Trey Palmer for that wide receiver 3 role early on in the year, which will be kind of interesting to watch because I think there's so many storylines like this where people keep going down in an offense and you're like, oh, it's got to be just more and more for Buka and Evans. It's like, well, no, sometimes it's that gross name you don't want to talk about who's going to actually get some looks, so.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's a great cut right there because they do need a slot receiver, especially with Godwin out. Like everyone thinks it's just going to be Igbuka sliding into the slot, but Igbuka can play all over the field. They've talked about it all camp. He can play any position out there. So
right.
I think that opens up a good spot for some deep cuts like that. And I mean, we got until at least October, if not later, for Godwin to come back. So definitely love a deep cut like that. I got a couple more gross names to talk about here from the news. We had some minor trades go down that I don't think it's really going to be too much in terms of 2025. Maybe a little bit of best ball, like sneaky spikeage, or maybe some dynasty value to gain here. But we had 2 trades go down yesterday. First one being Sky Moore being traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, Sky Moore is a name that came into the league on fire. Everyone was excited for him to be on the Chiefs, and all of a sudden does not fire, gets kind of overshadowed by Rashee Rice, gets overshadowed by Xavier Worthy, and just kind of disappears outside of like a Super Bowl touchdown. So seeing him shipped out over to San Francisco, who is another team that we're talking about here, just completely getting destroyed by injuries in the receiving room, running back room, entire team. Do we think that Sky Moore will see any type of value this year or even in the future? Are they trying to make him like a Debo light? What's your thoughts on Sky going to San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm obviously 100% out. Like I think Demarcus Robinson just got suspended as well. So he's going to miss, I think, 3 games for the 49ers. But just go down the list and like pull some of the deepest names on the 49ers wide receiver depth chart that you can. And all those guys can can be just as interesting of plays as Sky Moore, in my opinion. Like he has shown us absolutely nothing throughout his career to the point where you just like, fool me once, shame on me, right? Fool me 6 times, then I'm just an idiot at a certain point. So like, I don't see any sort of career resurgence here. I don't see any sort of need to pick him up, even in really deep leagues. Like, a bad player is still going to be a bad player, even if they go into a better situation. So I might sound, like I said, a little like really gloom on that, right? But it's like, I think they've got like Isaiah Hodgins is on their team, for example. Like Isaiah Hodgins has shown me more in the NFL than Sky Moore has, right? I'm not ever going to go pick him up no matter how many injuries go and happen to the guys in front of him, really. Like, I mean, obviously, if he was their starting wide receiver and is a deep enough league, like maybe, right? But like, I think it's just like I'm so sold on guys like Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings when he's on the field, and even Brandon Ayuk, like at less than 100%. I'll take all of those guys and just place more bets on them with them getting a guy like Sky Moore, because I'm like, I'm not touching that. That's just my perspective. I could be wrong. You never really know in this game we play, but I'm confident in this one.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like Sky is just one of those guys that is going to clog someone else's roster. I had cut ties already with him in even my deepest of dynasty leagues. I was burned. I was a Sky Moore guy when he came in.
Oh no.
I was tantalized. I was like, oh, it's a beautiful pairing. I want to see it, and then it was just like, oh no. But maybe it's a grosser team, but maybe a better player. We also had Devon Vele get traded to from Denver Broncos to the New Orleans Saints. Another wide receiver room that is kind of lacking the depth. They got Olave healthy. They got Rashid Shaheed back. So the top 2 guys are there, but we've had Bub Means get injured. We've kind of had just not much in New Orleans for wide receivers. So Vele comes in, and he could see some meaningful snaps because he played 61% of his snaps in Denver in the slot. And looking at this New Orleans depth chart, I don't really see anyone that plays the slot consistently. So maybe this is a guy that could get some value and even become like a flip. I mean, New Orleans paid a decent penny for him. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure what to really read into it. I'm not too excited for the wide receiver 3 or 4 on the Saints, but maybe.
yeah, I just like still can't get over the fact that they gave a 4th rounder and a 7th rounder for a second-year player who's going to be 28 before the season's over. Like that just sounds actually comedic. And it's like this is a franchise that like everybody thinks that could be the 401, right? Like that could be they could be the worst team in football this year and no one would be surprised. And so like just for them to give that away for a 28-year-old guy like who's only going into his second year, it just feels kind of interesting. Like it's like you're in the middle of the rebuild. Like, is this really you were just a Devon Vele away from being a contender? Is that what we think here, right? Like so I'm a Broncos fan and I like Vele, but I was like, we will take that deal 100 times out of 100. I'm excited. I think the bigger impact here probably is to the Broncos because you've got some talented players there who've shown development in the preseason with guys like Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant only being a rookie, but still, like I said, already putting some good NFL preseason tape on the film. Like this just clears the way for them to be a little bit more justifiable at their current ADPs. Like, in best ball, you're taking Troy Franklin at the very last round in round 18. Like that's a great click now. That click is probably no longer going to be there in a week because the market's going to adjust. Pat Bryant was around 170, which I thought was a little rich, but now it feels right? Because you got Vele out of the way, who I thought could be a thorn in both of those guys' sides. So I think this is also good news for a guy like Marvin Mims, who was going in that like 120 range, and now that feels good too. And it feels like it was a vote of confidence for all those guys. To your point, like I'm still struggling to get in on anyone past Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed in the Saints offense. I'll take a stab at like Jawan Johnson in best ball in that very last round, right? But like Devon Vele, he's still kind of off my radar. Like there's some deeper dynasty leagues where he's on waivers. I'm still probably not going to get him just because I like the guys I have better, than what he brings to the table. But yeah, really interesting they were willing to give up so much. I feel like that does say something about their plan on how involved he'll be.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like you said, it's a team that looking at the bottom of the pack, they're not even in like a soft division. So like you said, they're not a Devon Vele away from competing. So really interesting to see it. I mean, they're fighting for third place in their own division right now. So definitely an interesting take. But at the same time, like I said, I was looking at the Saints depth chart and there's no slot receiver. So it just seems like they want to plug them in there. But again, crazy for a 28-year-old second year wide receiver who didn't really pop much. Like he had like a flash or two. So interested to see what they do with that there. And then last little bit of news, we actually had a break this morning. It's just more rumors than anything, but the Saints, Chiefs, and Browns are making calls on running backs right now. We know that we got some big names out there like Brian Robinson and ETN that their own teams are kind of dangling them out there. So it could be we could see some interesting shakeup here right before the season starts. In terms of like the Browns, though, I mean, we know that they brought in Samson, they had Jerome Ford already, and we've got all this issues with Judkins not even signing his contract, even though he's been cleared legally. With the Browns being in this list of reaching out to teams for running backs, does that kind of make you a little bit nervous about Judkins, not just for 2025, but beyond that? Like, is this something where will he just not even be a part of this team, or is this more of them just trying to get some depth before 2025?
Yeah, I think in redraft it's certainly concerning. In like dynasty long term, I'm not fully fading Judkins or panic selling him at this point because I feel like you'd probably be taking a pretty considerable loss doing that. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to press charges on the guy. And the league can only do, they're not going to ban this guy from ever playing again, right? So like that's just not really one of the possible outcomes. So it's like, all right, he has a path to be allowed by the NFL to play. they might want to wait for the investigation to conclude before they sign him, is what some of the reports are saying. Like that's the Brown stance. But again, like that has an end date. That's not going to be 3 years from now or something. Like worst case, they do investigate. They do decide they would want to suspend him. It could be 8 games, right? Like I don't think any of that will happen. I think there's still a scenario where like they do just decide they're not going to, they didn't find much or whatever, or that the Browns do want to sign him before that concludes. Like, so there's really a ton of range of outcomes there. I think to your point, this is just like a cover your butt thing for this year with the Browns. And this is also all just rumors, right? Like, and I think the more telling part is like just how willing the Commanders are to move on from Brian Robinson. Like, I had somebody I do a positional breakdown on my Twitter every year of like early depth chart. Like, and so I did the running backs back in like June. And so, I'm calling out like Robinson as the starter and kind of the deep guys. And like Chris Rodriguez was like listed as one of the deep guys, right? Cause he's like below Eckler and, even is being at that time was even getting less buzz than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. And someone says like Chris Rodriguez is the starting running back. And I'll never forget that comment because I like had a giggle about it. And then I was like, you know what? Chris Rodriguez probably would be better than any running back on the Dallas Cowboys. I remember thinking that to myself and just being like, this is just a wild kind of rabbit hole my mind is going down. And now like it's all actually playing out, right? Or like, they seem to think, and I almost think, like Chris Rodriguez looks like he has more juice than Brian Robinson. And like we'll get rid of Brian Robinson and the Cowboys could have him because Chris Rodriguez would still be better than any running back that would be on the Cowboys. So a little bit of a tangent there, but I do think it's an interesting situation. And I think Chris Rodriguez is a name that's still not getting a lot of love. Like this guy was clearly the running back one in front of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt based on how the preseason usage happened. Like they had Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in there late into the third quarter and, Rodriguez was on ice long before that and busted out a 40-yard run on his first touch. So he certainly did everything he could to keep kind of that 1A role. So I think he's a really interesting guy who should be added in most leagues in Dynasty at this point.
Yeah, no, he's definitely the unsung hero right now. Everyone's too busy reaching back to like their June takes on Bill Krosky-Merritt, trying to like victory lap that when in reality he's not even the starter yet. So I mean, maybe it could be Rodriguez and Bill Krosky-Merritt, and Eckler is also just a very much depth piece of this offense. I mean, right. I still think that Eckler's the best pass catcher on the league, but I mean,
yeah, great point.
He's just a little bit dusty, and it seems like this team is trying to put as much speed around Jaden as they can. So we'll see how much Eckler actually gets used. And then in terms of the Saints, we've already talked about them. They're clearly apparently buyers before the season, so who knows how many more picks they ship out. But in terms of the running back room, we know Kamara is cemented in. He's got his contract. He's the only weapon on this offense right now that you can really rely on outside of maybe Olave. But in terms of dynasty for Kendre Miller and Devin Neal, are these guys just cuts at this point? Are you even like holding out hope for these two guys in a bad situation?
Yeah, you got to hang on to both those guys at this point. Like, we'll get into this a little later about our flag plants. Like, I'll spoiler alert that Kamara is one of them for me. I think he'll repeat, being just a running back one like he's been most of his career. But Kendre Miller, he has been like, it's almost crazy to me that there's no hype on this guy because he's been unable to stay healthy. But like very clearly, the RB2 in this offense right now. And is like a Alvin Kamara ankle twist away from, seeing some heavy usage that everybody would want to roster this guy. So like you can't, in Kendre, in Dynasty, you can't cut him. And in deep, like redraft leagues, he's, I think, one of the more interesting handcuff options. And then Devin Neal is just like that rookie unknown where like, yeah, he didn't show out at the combine in terms of athletic testing, but like he put some really good film on tape and is a guy who looks like a good football player. And one of these guys where like if you're trying to cut your losses before he's even played his first NFL snap in Dynasty, like you're probably not playing Dynasty right. You have to have a little bit of conviction in what you drafted with him. So hang on to both those guys for now is the long story short of it.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's like you said, just rumors right now. So we'll keep an eye out for the news as it breaks. We still got two big names that might move, might not move. Robinson might get cut. And honestly, I still think my call is going to be either Houston. He's going to go somewhere in Texas, either Houston or Dallas. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. But honestly, I like that take on Devin Neal. He is one of those guys that you heard a lot from, like the film grinders, that like he just had some good spots, some good tape, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So that's kind of why the fall happened. But maybe someone that you take late in a best ball league, because as you said, an ankle twist away from some meaningful snaps. So a contest that you can kind of take advantage of that, where you're reaching for a low owned guy, is the Rabbit over on Fast Draft. Definitely been my favorite.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, my favorite best ball contest as of late. I got two kids, so I need the quick ones. I can't always wait the 45 minutes and sit through and have some auto picks on underdog. So having the Fast Draft Rabbit drafts be done in 20 minutes has kind of been my go-to. And honestly, I've been trying to mix up my last 2-3 picks to get some guys that are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% owned. So Devin Neal might be someone that I start sprinkling in. But before we get to our flag plans, I'm going to go ahead and let the Podfather talk about the Rabbit a little bit more.
You asked, we delivered a full best ball tournament on Fast Draft, but we do it the Fast Draft way, and it's called the Rabbit, because of course it is. 20-second time clock, 15 rounds. These drafts, they take 20 minutes. That's it. So you get a lot of new people coming in and playing, get a lot of best ball bros playing, exploitable ADPs, no rake. It is the best EV in all of fantasy. You should just go to fastdraft.app, use code FAST. You get a $50 deposit match. These things are a blast, and it's the best use of your funds in all of fantasy.
Yep. And like I said, I think I said it on Tuesday, Rabbit pool number 2, $50,000 prize pool, sitting at about 66 to 70% full. So everyone's got to jump in there, get your drafts in before the season starts. You kind of see it in the back there. We got 2 weeks left, everybody. 2 weeks left, and it is finally time for NFL Week 1. We've all been waiting for it. But for those of you who, like me, have not done your home league drafts yet, Jonny and I are going to talk about some flag plants that are going to help you take down your league, some guys that you push them to the top of your tier and you're going to be happy about it. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. Jonny, as the guest, you want to go ahead and go with your first flag plant here?
Yeah, sure. So for me, this is kind of a bold take, right? Is that I think Davante Adams could be a wide receiver 1 and outscore Puka Nacua. So, first off, if you've not seen Wide Receiver on Netflix, it's worth a watch. Like, just you fall in love with Davante Adams and how his mindset is to just play through any injuries, and like the mental fortitude that he has is charming, like, to say the least. And so he's just one of those guys I've been in love with for a really long time, and is just, he's a gold jacket kind of player. Like, so he was wide receiver 9 in points per game once he was a Jet last year, which I think people kind of like don't fully realize. And, I think that was with Rodgers, who's at this stage. I think Stafford is a better player at this stage in his career. I think he's getting a quarterback upgrade with Matthew Stafford. And so, there's still that back uncertainty with Matthew Stafford. I think he'll end up playing through it. That's another guy who's really tough. And I think you can get Adams at like a bit of a discount right now in terms of kind of being priced as the wide receiver 2 in the good offense, but with a little bit of QB uncertainty. So there's a little bit of a discount there in terms of like, I'm not fully convinced he's the wide receiver 2 in this offense. And I'm not I think that Stafford could play all 17 games and that this could be one of the better seasons in Adams' career. One thing that Adams does really
Oh, Johnny, it looks like we might have had some technical difficulties there. It says your mic might have disconnected. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. There you are. I was gonna say I heard something reconnect there. Sorry, it looks like we lost you a little bit early into that take. So
sorry.
No worries.
Long story short, Davante Adams gonna catch a lot of touchdowns from Matthew Stafford. No brainer. Fantasy league winner. Don't overthink it. The guy's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, honestly, I have to fully agree with you on this one. I haven't been full fading Puka, but I've been very cautious just because he goes so high. And like you said, we have Adams 3 rounds later in the third, fourth round. And who's to say, like, when Adams went over to the New York Jets, nobody was saying like, oh, Wilson's still the wide receiver 1. Wilson's still the wide receiver 1. Everyone's like, well, Wilson's the 2 now. Adams is the 1. What's different about this situation? I get that like Stafford doesn't have the rapport with him that he does with Puka. Like, he went into New York with the rapport with Rodgers already, but I don't really see a world where Stafford's just going to lock onto Puka. I mean, Stafford's a good enough quarterback to spread the ball around to the best players. And I mean, this is such a consolidated offense. We got Puka, we got Adams, we got Kyron. So I think no matter what, like, all 3 of those dudes can eat as long as Stafford is healthy. And then even if Stafford's back does act up and he has to take a step away, the backup is Jimmy Garoppolo, who had an offense where he just fed Davante Adams. So it's one of those things where I'd rather take the discount on an elite wide receiver rather than pay up for the round 1 guy. So definitely with you there. I like that take. I like that take a lot. We'll go ahead and I'll jump over to my first flag plant. It's going to be someone a little bit sorry, threw off there. My first guy that I'm going to talk about is going to be Keon Coleman. It's a little bit of a deeper cut, a little bit of a deeper guy, someone that maybe isn't going to single-handedly win your league, but I still think that he's someone that is just, he's set up this year. We hear about it every year, the year 2 leap for wide receivers. Everyone always is like clamoring over the year 2 guys. And I feel like Keon Coleman's not getting that. And everyone's just saying, oh, he had a bad first year, but he was also injured for a good chunk of that year. And I mean, James Cook had 18 total touchdowns. The offense didn't really need to do a whole lot because they were just blowing everybody out. So they didn't need to rely on the passing game. And we've seen what this offense can do through the air as well as through the ground. So Coleman is definitely someone that I'm targeting. He's had the air yards. He had the air yards last season. He's got the draft capital from the NFL draft. He's practically a first rounder. He was the first pick of the second round. And everything's reporting that he's healthy and ready to go. So I think that he's just kind of set to take off, and he's being priced right now. He's wide receiver 50. He's in the double-digit rounds according to Fantasy Pros ADP, and that's insane. Like, it's a guy that can have weekly blow-up games, and he still can provide a floor at the wide receiver 50 range. Like, we saw a little bit of redundancy last season with like Matt Collins and Amari Cooper. When Cooper got brought in, they kind of played that same role that Coleman's playing, and both those guys are gone. That's a ton of targets out the window right there. Khalil Shakir's still dealing with the high ankle sprain. So I just think that there's a huge opportunity, and you're taking zero risk on at wide receiver 50 for a guy that can be a wide receiver 2 easy. So he's been someone that I've been going after heavy. As soon as we get to like rounds 8, 9, 10, I'm looking to see where Coleman is. And I'm looking to snag him there, because I want that year 2 leap out of a good, big, strong wide receiver.
Yeah, I like the call. I prefer him to Shakir and Josh Palmer. Like that's sort of where my head goes at with that is, the one part that gives me a little pause is like they broke a record last year for passing touchdowns to different players, right? Like they are able to spread that ball, get everyone involved in that offense. But if there's one kind of like guy that I think is the cream that rises to the top, it's probably Keelan Coleman taking like a second-year leap and being a little bit more of that red zone threat for them. I love his personality. I love his talent. I love guys like him he's a former basketball player, right? So he's should inherently have that like box out ball skills kind of thing, like Devontae Adams guy I was just talking about. So really like Keelan Coleman. Deion Dawkins, Bills player, has been adamant as well. Like this guy's he's gonna be the biggest story this season about the Buffalo Bills is Keelan Coleman taking a second-year leap, and that he's just a completely different player. So we'll have to see. He hasn't like lit the preseason on fire when he's been out there, but that doesn't really matter. It just matters what happens when he's when the week one starts. So, and I would rather be on the right side of history with this. To your point, and like I definitely want to mix him in those middle rounds because the cost is certainly not too rich for the potential upside.
Yeah, and I mean to your point even more, like the Bills haven't played a lot of starters. Like they've been Josh Allen's not out there, so I don't care about his connection with any backups. I care about his connection with Josh Allen. So definitely someone that I'm willing to take that bet on, and I'm excited to see. It looks like you got quite a bit of wide receiver hot takes coming in today, so I'm excited to hear number 2 from you here.
Yeah. So for me, the next one is that like Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter's ADP should be like a lot closer. Like crazy enough again, where it's like I could see a world and a dimension that we live in where their ADPs are flipped the same time next year. Like and this is no slight on Brian Thomas. Like it's just that Travis Hunter is, again, when I think about people who could be like Hall of Fame talent, I've been adamant that I think Travis Hunter is that kind of guy. Like I think he's going to create so much separation. He's going to be utilized heavily in the slot. He's going to be this centerpiece of this offense, and people still are struggling to grasp that. And so that's, again, it's bold, it's out there. I think they could both be highly productive players, but it would not shock me if in a year you're like, oh yeah, like that guy who was the second overall pick and the Biletnikoff winner and is like the highest rated prospect and coming into college in football history, basically. Like, oh yeah, that guy, like he is the best player on the team, like that's kind of where my stance comes with it, is like, I'm not scared of this guy playing like 80% of the snaps, 75% on offense. Like as long as he can stay healthy, I think he's just going to be a delight to watch and extremely productive and just one of those guys that pops off the screen compared to everyone else on the field.
But he plays defense. You can't say that about a guy that plays defense. He's a cornerback. Like, no, it's another situation where like the second wide receiver on this team is like very similar to your Devontae Puka take. Like the second wide receiver is just a much better value this year. Like if you can get a Devontae Adams, if you can get a Travis Hunter 3 rounds after you're taking Puka and Brian Thomas, like that's unreal for guys that are going to be, like you said, like much closer than everyone's making them out to be. Like the fantasy world wants to see a clear-cut 1, a clear-cut 2, right. But in reality, that's just week to week, those roles could be flipped.
Right. Or maybe we're just wrong on who the one is. To your point, like I think you brought up a really good point about Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Like people seem to immediately grasp that Garrett Wilson was going to be the 2. Like we just wrote that in stone, and like somehow we just wrote in stone that Puka's still the 1, right? And like it could be more of a 1A, 1B thing, but what if we're just like completely off and it's 1A, 1B the other way around, right? Where Adams and Hunter are the 1A, and now Brian Thomas and Puka are the 1B. These are great players, like fantastic players. but they're up against potential future Hall of Famers. This is kind of how I paint that picture. And like, I'm not fully sold on Puka being like a Hall of Famer yet. And same with like Brian Thomas, right? Like, just because they had two, he had a great rookie year and Puka's been great for 2 years. Like, they've got some really good target competition on those teams,
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, these guys are drafted highly for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I've been right there with you, where I just think that going after these second guys on these offenses where the one is just anointed the one for no reason, like you just get so much better value. So I have been lighter on Puka, lighter on Brian Thomas, and much heavier on Devontae and Hunter. And I mean, Hunter's got that kind of upside in round like 3-4, where like that's league winning upside right there. If he really is the one on this team, like that's how you win a league right there, is by taking the shot on a guy like Hunter.
Yeah, I have him in my Scott Fishbowl league too, where they like award points for like tackles and defense and stuff. So I'm curious to see like if he surpasses expectations and outperforms ADP, like just how valuable he is in that format.
And Scott Fishbowl, that's just that's easy money right there with Travis Hunter.
It's fun having him there. Yeah, it's fun having him in there.
I'm sticking with the rookie wide receiver for my second flag plan. It's going to be T-Mac Teteroa McMillan. Nice. For Carolina. I think this is another guy that is just he's just not being valued where his volume's going to be. I don't care if the Panthers aren't going to be a top offense in the league, because who do they have on that team on offense? Who do they have on that team in general that's going to suppress T-Mac from being a productive fantasy player? And I struggle to figure it out. I mean, we saw last season, Bryce Young came back after getting benched. He came back. He made a little bit of a push towards the end of the season. He wasn't lighting the world on fire, but it was much better than what it looked like at the beginning. And that was with Dusty Thielen leading the wide receiver room.
Dusty Thielen.
The dude's just being like a bag of bones being dragged around out there. And there's some rumors out there that he might be heading on the way out. So I think that there's some young guys on this team that are going to kind of make the offense a little bit more explosive, open up the field a little bit more. And I mean, T-Mac he's 6'4", about 220 pounds, and he ran a 4.5. And you're telling me that Thielen was putting up like 20-point fantasy games, that if you take those targets and you give them to 6'4", 224.5 running T-Mac, that he's not going to go ahead and just absolutely destroy defenses. He's going in the 6th round right now of fantasy drafts. He's the wide receiver 28 off the board, and he's the only piece of this offense that is like going to be doing anything. Like, yes, I love Chuba. I think Chuba has been great, but I also think that Chuba was great because he got a lot of volume. I don't think that he was really like destroying teams. And right now, Carolina's defense it's bad. Like they were giving up over 30 points per game last season. It's not like they've made big improvements. JC Horn got into a car accident and had to get like minor stitches in his thumb and everything. So it's not like this defense is completely turned around and going to be strong. So I think that they're going to have to pass the ball. And right now I have in my projections, I got T-Mac at about 146 targets. And I think that might be too low. That honestly might be too low. If they turn very much to a passing offense, I think that he could break 150 easy. And we're sitting here saying, I got the ADP telling me that he's a wide receiver 3 with almost 150 targets, and that's an insane price to me. So I think that T-Mac is another guy that he might not have the touchdown ceiling that some of these other guys have due to the fact that he's on Carolina, but I just think that the floor is there, and I think that he's a lot better than anything we've seen in Carolina recently. I've even got him going over, like I'd take him over guys like Zay Flowers and Xavier Worthy, who are going like a round or two ahead of him. So that's kind of where I stand with T-Mac. Not sure if you're feeling the same way.
I'm all in, dude. Like, first off, this is like really similar of like Baker Mayfield in Tampa with Dave Canales. Like, now Bryce Young gets his Mike Evans and Ted McMillan, right? And like, so I think that's sort of like the range of outcomes there is a guy who can just like thrive in that X role. Just don't overthink this. This is a top 10 pick. This is a guy who is incredibly productive in college, put together some awesome tape, and like would be no surprise to me if he massively outperforms his ADP and is a fringe wide receiver 1 in his rookie year. So like I'm right there with you that like he could be a massive value. Like it's tough to say, oh, he's got top 5 upside. Like that's just tough to say about anyone, right? Especially a rookie wide receiver. But I think that he still does have enough upside where he could massively be one of the best values in that range. So I really like Ted McMillan. I've been targeting him pretty frequently when I can in both redraft and Dynasty.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in Dynasty, especially like in my rookie drafts, like I felt like everyone was just enamored with like the Janty, the Hampton, the running backs, even like Cam Ward and T-Mac were both just crazy values in Dynasty this year. I was able to get T-Mac anywhere from like 2 to like 6, I feel like this year in the first round of Dynasty drafts. So not really sure what people were expecting them to do with McMillan in Carolina, but I mean, they brought him in for a reason. They have nobody else in the wide receiver core. Like it's T-Mac time.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we each got one more left, and it looks like we both turned to the running back after talking some wide receivers. So let's go ahead and let's hear flag plant number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this one relatively short just because I think this guy's like production has spoke for itself, but it's just that Alvin Kamara is a value again this year, right? Like, especially in PPR leagues, like led the running back position in target share. To your point, fresh off a contract extensions, he's getting paid handsomely to show up to work every day. Like, I think this is a room where, yeah, they might bring in another body. Like if he's owning 55 to 60% of the opportunities in that backfield, he is going to massively outperform ADP, which is just crazy. I just don't understand why people like bury him so far down when he's consistently been, like a top 5 running back in points per game, especially in full PPR leagues. Like you have to go for this guy, and like he's he maybe has lost like a half a step, but he's still just so good at being elusive and making people miss, and that he can create chunk plays and has just high upside for spike weeks. Like he has everything you want in a fantasy football player, and I think we've got there's that running back age cliff kind of thing. Like he hasn't had any massive bad injuries. Yeah, he gets dinged up every year, but I think like it's not like he's Nick Chubb battling his way back from second blown out knee or whatever. Like I think this is a guy who's been relatively healthy throughout his career and has some gas left in the tank, and now is probably the time more than ever to like hammer down on his current ADP and take advantage of getting a running back 1 in, the mid 50s. It depends what format, what league you're drafting him in, but that's usually about right. It's like, RB 18 through 20 range, something like that, maybe 18 through 22. And he's just, again, has like top 5 upside. And so it's just not a guy I can't ignore.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Even if he did lose a step, like you said, they're giving him so much more volume now compared to early in his career when he was getting less of a market share. So it's like it evens out. Like he might not be as efficient. He might not be making as many like big plays or like no 6 touchdown games anymore. But the volume, the floor is just crazy, especially with a guy like Spencer Rattler, who might be the quarterback. Who, I mean, we saw last season when Rattler was in, it was Kamara and it was Juwan Johnson just getting absolutely peppered underneath. So I think we see a lot more of the same, even if Shuck gets in there at some point, which I fully expect. But I think that he's the focal point of the offense. He is the New Orleans Saints offense for 2025. And I got nothing else to add other than the Kamara fade is shameful of the fantasy community. because the dude has done nothing to be faded. He just continues to produce and do what he's got to do. My running back take is a little bit spicy. I think that Chase Brown's going to be the RB1 this season. It's not the craziest take, but I think
that's pretty juicy, dude. That's pretty juicy.
I just, every time I mull it over, every time I think about it, I can't imagine like a world that he doesn't have the chance to do it. I mean, this offense is out of this world. They're going to be putting up just another crazy season of points. The defense hasn't gotten any better. I mean, they've drafted some defense, but Trey Hendrickson, what's going on with him? They still haven't paid him. There's talks that are kind of heating up of him getting traded. So if they trade away their best pass rusher, like, who's to say that it's not more than what we saw last season? Like more points against, more points for. Like, I mean, the Bengals are just like, I have no idea how they're planning to run this team. I don't know what they're trying to do. If they're just trying, if maybe they play fantasy football for like a crazy amount of money and they're trying to get some cash, but they're doing everything they can to have 35 plus points per game scored by their offense. And I mean, who's in this running back room that's going to deny Chase Brown? They brought in Taj Brooks. They brought in Samaje Perine, both just kind of guys right now. I like Taj Brooks. I think he's got potential, but in the preseason game on Monday, we saw Chase Brown in there on the 1 yard line, punching in a goal line carry for a touchdown in preseason. And he did that plenty last year when he took over. Yeah.
It was pretty fun to watch, wasn't it? Like how hard he had to fight for that yard.
Exactly. And like I feel like in preseason, you don't need, even if you have your first team offense in, maybe you want to see what Brooks can do with it. Maybe you want to see, and maybe you don't want to be ramming Chase Brown up the middle in a preseason game, potentially hurting him, but they did it. They want him like he is still the goal line back. He's the pass catching back. He is everything still in this backfield. And I mean, I just think that everything's set up where if the season plays out the way that last season did, where they're having to be in a shootout every single week, I think Chase Brown's got a really good sneaky case to be the RB1 overall in fantasy this season.
Dude, I think it's a sneaky or it's not sneaky. I don't know what it's spicy. It is spicy. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, like Derrick Henry, right? Like there's so many names that he will have to be in front of to be the RB1. But I agree with you. It's just such a fun, like, how bad can a defense possibly be, and how much can they have to, do shootouts, right? And like he will be involved in the passing game. He'll be the running game. Like Taj Brooks actually put together like a better stat line than I thought I was watching with my eyes in the second week of the preseason. Like I just haven't been blown away by anything that the other running backs have brought to the table there. Like we know what Samaje Perine is, and like Chase Brown looks explosive. Like he's always looked explosive, and he kind of is just at that 30 BMI threshold where he's thick enough to hopefully put up with the pounding. And if the durability is probably my main concern, because I know the volume's coming. It's just, is he going to put up with it all season? And if he can, then it is within his range of outcomes. And he's a guy I'm starting to you're starting to see the ABB creep up, because you don't always put too much credence into the preseason, but in this case you kind of do, right? Like to your point, Joe Burrow's out there getting destroyed, like getting sacked, and then coming out the next series and the series after that getting sacked. And it was like they were clearly trying to do something with those snaps, right? And like really brush off the rust and operate the Ferrari like they were going to drive it during the regular season, right? And so that's sort of how I saw that Bengals offense playing in week 2, those first couple drives of the preseason. And so my main takeaway was oh yeah, when this offense is out there trying to move the ball seriously, there's no other running back going to be on the field besides Chase Brown. His snap share could be in that 80 to 90% range, it really wouldn't blow me away. Like almost like Kyron Williams type usage with more explosive upside, right? So
yeah, it's crazy what the Bengals are doing, but I mean, in terms of fantasy, I love it. I want
it's so much fun. I've never seen an offense so good with a defense so bad. Like it's crazy.
It's gonna be real interesting to watch. I mean, and also in terms of NFL, they were pissed off last year. They fought like hell to get back into the playoffs, just barely missed. So I think that's kind of why you're seeing them shake off the rust early here and really, and they want a strong start this season. And I don't know what's stopping them besides their own defense. So it'll be exciting to see. But I appreciate you coming on, Jonny. It was an absolute blast. I know we're coming up on time here, so want to get you out of here. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Wake and Take. Go ahead and let us know again where we can find you and your content.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me a follow on X. I'm at Fantasy Picasso. And I try and post relevant, fantasy football takes on there. And then follow the main Player Profiler page at Roto Underworld on X. I help kind of post some of the content for that page. And then go to the main Player Profiler YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to that. And I do my Dynasty Deep Dive show every week. Bring on different guests who have very specific areas of focus and do some really cool stuff in terms of how they're evaluating the Dynasty landscape. So check out some of that stuff if you're interested. And yeah, thank you for having me on the show today, Justin.
Yep, absolutely. And to everyone that joined us in the chat, thank you guys so much for jumping in, waking and taking with us. I'll be back on Tuesday with maybe another special guest. So go ahead, stick around and tune in on Tuesday. But thank you guys. See you next time.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.